This is my first video update coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Right now, I am making this video on this Wednesday morning from the campus of the University of Nicosia, which is over there, as well as down that way, as well as down that way. And in this video, we are going to be talking about the push for some sort of declaration of war by the Russian Federation with regards to Ukraine, and a push for mobilization and the national draft. But the people that are pushing for this are the collective West. Not so much the Kremlin. It is the collective West that is using all of their media soft power to goad the Russian Federation into some sort of declaration of war and some sort of mobilization. And here is what the Kremlin spokesman had to say with regards to this mobilization push that we are seeing in the mainstream media. He said that Russia is not planning to declare a mass national draft for the war in Ukraine. This is what Dmitry Peskov said when he was speaking to reporters, amid claims that the Russian military is suffering from fatigue, low morale, and manpower shortages. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov emphasized this is not under discussion at this point. Not at this point. No, we are not discussing that. That is a direct quote when he was asked about widespread reports of mobilization as quoted by TASS News. Now, John Kirby at the White House, he was asked about everything that has happened in Ukraine and what's the White House's plan with regard to Ukraine after the Kharkov counteroffensive, and what are his thoughts with regards to Russia's military potential. And John Kirby said that Russia, they clearly still have a military capable of inflicting great damage and casualties, Kirby told reporters at a briefing on Tuesday afternoon. For all the problems the Russians may have faced in Ukraine, their military is still very large and very powerful. And Russian President Vladimir Putin still has an awful lot of military capacity left at his disposal, not just to be used in Ukraine, but potentially elsewhere. Now, according to the New York Times, British and U.S. military officials worked together with Ukraine's general staff to plan the counterattack in Kharkov. The new U.S. defense attaché in Kiev, Brigadier General Garrick Harmon, began having daily sessions with Ukraine's top officers in the run-up to the counteroffensive, the New York Times reported on Tuesday. Quote, "We did do some modeling and some tabletop exercises," Undersecretary of State for Policy Colin Cowell told the Times in a telephone interview. That set of exercises suggested that certain avenues for a counteroffensive were likely to be more successful than others. We provided that advice, and then the Ukrainians internalized that and made their own decision. Now, John Kirby, by the way, John Kirby's exact title is White House National Security Spokesman. John Kirby told ABC News' Good Morning America that he expressed confidence that Kiev could maintain the pace of operations, noting that they've planned this counteroffensive pretty carefully. And so you now have a lot of collective West media outlets which are really hyping up, they're really ramping up the talk of a declaration of war and a Russian mobilization. Now, the Kremlin has been very quiet the past 24 hours. They haven't really been talking much about everything that happened, whether it's the Kharkov counteroffensive or the targeting of the thermal power plants and the critical infrastructure that took place on Sunday in Ukraine. The Kremlin has been very, very quiet. There are rumors that the Kremlin may be inching towards calling this special military operation, designating it as an anti-terrorist operation, and not going the route of mobilization or declaration of war, which mobilization and a declaration of war and a national draft is a terrible idea. It is an absolutely terrible idea, and the collective West is trying to bait Russia to do this. They're trying to stir up panic and drama so that the Kremlin bites, perhaps the Russian public bites at this soft power campaign to talk about mobilization and a Russian defeat at the hands of Ukraine in Kharkov. And they're trying to get this mobilization to happen, but the Kremlin so far has played it very quiet and cool. Now, why do I feel the collective West is trying to get this mobilization talk ramped up so that it becomes reality? Well, a couple of reasons. You had first of all, you had the Ukraine deputy prime minister. I forgot her name. What is her name? Let me pull up. Natasha, I believe. Natasha something. Let's see here. I think I've got it here. Deputy Prime Minister Olga Stefanichnaya. She gave an interview to France 24 on Tuesday, and she said that the Kharkov operation was a turning point, not just of the fighting since February, but of the war that started in the spring of 2014. She was referring to Kiev's efforts to suppress the independence of Donetsk and Lugansk, people's republics, in the aftermath of the US-backed coup. Now, you also had Zelensky aide, one of his top aides, Podolyak, talk about how the calculus has changed now. Everything has changed since Kharkov, and Ukraine's plan now is to beef up its anti-air defenses and to make a move on what Podolyak called the liberation of Donetsk and Lugansk, to take back the entire Donbass. And then he talked about making a move on Crimea. So he said that negotiations are off. This was indeed a turning point. The Kharkov counteroffensive was a turning point. Both the deputy prime minister and Podolyak stated that they feel Ukraine is now winning and can win this war. And the goals have changed. The goals are now the complete, what they say, in their words, is the complete liberation of all of Ukraine, including Crimea, the taking over of all of Ukraine, including Crimea. So you had these two statements that came out as well, which kind of feeds into the panic wheel, doesn't it? It really feeds into it, so that people hear these statements on France 24 or Podolyak. I forgot where Podolyak made these statements. I think he actually tweeted them out, and it wasn't a formal interview, but it kind of feeds into the panic wheel. And now you have multiple articles from the Wall Street Journal, from the Financial Times, Bloomberg, The Hill, and they're all talking about the United States providing more lethal types of weapons, long-range missiles that could strike at the Russian Federation, as well as possibly providing F-16s, and just a whole upgrade of weapons being provided by the United States to Ukraine, of course, because of this turning point moment in Kharkov, right? The impression is that Ukraine now can go for the knockout blow if they just get these types of long-range missiles and these types of weapons, and the planning now that has taken place with multiple counteroffensives now kind of being planned all throughout Ukraine. This is just the general impression that is coming out now from the collective West and from the regime in Kiev. Why is all of this happening? Why does it seem like the collective West is so focused on creating a narrative that Russia is on its heels, it's on its back heels, it's war fatigued, it's tired, it's losing, and if it doesn't mobilize now, then all is lost. There's a couple of reasons for this. There are a couple of reasons why they are doing this. And the first reason, I believe the most important reason, is that the collective West understands that a bigger part to this conflict in Ukraine is the actual economic conflict. And they understand that the Russian economy is actually doing quite well. It's actually proven to be a lot stronger than they anticipated when they launched the economic shock and awe. And the economies that appear to be a lot weaker are the collective West economies, especially the European Union economies. And they understand that as we enter winter, it's either going to be the EU economy that collapses or it's going to be the Russian economy that collapses. And right now, as we stand, the Russian economy is not going to collapse. The EU economies are collapsing. Germany's deindustrializing. Things are falling apart in the European Union. And other countries in the collective West, they don't look much better. But how can the collective West force the Russian economy to implode? How can the collective West take all of the hard work that Russia has done shoring up its economy so that it could withstand the economic shock and awe? How can they take all of those hard gains and revert them? There's one way they can do that, and that is by goading Russia into calling for mobilization, a national draft, and even declaring war. So they understand that if Russia shifts its focus towards a war economy, then all the gains that they've made, all the hard work that they've made in this economic war of attrition over the past 6 months, and I could even say the past 10 years or 8 years that Russia's been preparing for this on an economic level, all of that gets reversed because Russia now moves to a war footing and a war mobilization economy. So the collective West really benefits on an economic level if they can get Russia to move towards a wartime economy, if they can get them to mobilize. So that's one of the big reasons why you have this narrative, this mainstream media push to talk about mobilization. Another big reason why mobilization is so important for the collective West, why Russian mobilization is now that is the flavor of the month for the collective West, is because if Russia mobilizes, they're going to probably turn off a lot of their international partners that they've also worked hard at getting on side over the past 6 months. For example, India. If India sees that Russia is declaring war, if they see that Russia is mobilizing and they're putting in place a national draft and stuff like that, then India is going to say, maybe I am on the wrong side of things when it comes to this fair world order versus the existing globalist world order. Maybe this fair world order isn't going to work out. Maybe Russia really is going to be defeated in Ukraine, and so I better make the appropriate moves and take the appropriate measures, and perhaps lean more towards the collective West. Turkey may say the same. So a mobilization, I think, on an optics level and on a foreign policy practical level, would probably spook many of Russia's international partners. So that is another reason why getting Russia to mobilize, or even just talking about mobilization, is benefiting the collective West. Here's another reason why the collective West is hyping up mobilization. The EU, if they can get Russia to declare war, the EU can then go to their citizens and they can say, you know what? Russia's declared war, they're mobilizing. So all of Europe, you have to have a war mindset for Ukraine. Ukraine is now not a special military operations. The Russians are not taking it step by step, slowly. They're not looking to preserve Ukrainian infrastructure and things like this. They're actually now looking to destroy Ukraine and to go to war with the Ukrainian people. And so as Europeans, we have to have a war mindset. Yes, as Europeans, we're not directly at war with Russia, even though NATO is fighting a proxy war. But as Europeans, we have to get into that war mindset. So your poverty, your higher electricity bills, your higher expenses, your overall quality of living decreasing is because there is a war at our doorsteps. So that explains the measures that we're taking as the European Union. That explains why we're going full in with regards to Ukraine, and that is why, as EU citizens, you're going to have to suffer for just a little bit longer, because there is indeed now a full-out war taking place on our borders. And of course, another reason for this push for mobilization from the collective West is you want to sow doubt in the leadership of Putin. You want to sow doubt amongst the Russian population, and you also want doubt and morale to decrease in amongst Ukrainian citizens who are living under Russian control in Russian liberated territory. And that's another reason why you want to push this narrative of mobilization and a Russian defeat, which now has to be remedied since the Kharkov counteroffensive. So there's a lot at stake here for the collective West to keep on pumping up the Kharkov counteroffensive and the mobilization narrative. Now, the Kharkov counteroffensive, the real military conflict that's playing out in Kharkov, has fizzled out. I mean, there's still a lot of maneuvering and fighting taking place, but for the most part, what's happened in Kharkov has happened. It's pretty much now tapering off the activity in Kharkov, and rightly so, because when you take a look at the map, you see that Ukraine, yes, they've gained a lot of territory, but the territory that they're now running up against is Russian now. Okay, so they have the Kharkov Oblast, but the only way for them to go is either up or down, right? For the most part, Russia's built up their defenses in the east along the Oskol River, and Ukraine's going to run into some stiff resistance there. But the only other moves that Ukraine can make is moving towards Russian territory or moving down south. That's it. And so moving up towards Russian territory, because that's where the border is a no-go right away. And they're either going to have to face a very stiff Russian military on the river, which is getting reinforced every day. From my understanding of things, it's getting reinforced every day. That position is getting stronger and stronger. Or you have to move south, where you face a formidable Russian position there as well. And so I believe that right now, what we're seeing in terms of the Russian strategy in Ukraine and the geopolitical strategy in Ukraine is like this. Alexander has a really good term. He uses a really good terminology for what happened in Kharkov. He says that the Ukraine military, they did mount a successful counteroffensive, and they did win in Kharkov, but what they really did is they were just punching air. It's like a fight where they were just punching air. And he's exactly right, because it's now irrefutable. It's without a doubt, irrefutable fact that Russia did indeed thin out their position in Kharkov. They had very, very few troops in that area, and much of the military presence there wasn't really a military, like a trained military presence, trained military to fight the Ukraine military. It was more, like I said in a previous video, more of like a National Guard type of presence there, a Russian National Guard type of presence, which is different than our perception in the West of what a National Guard is and does. But it's without a doubt now that Russia was indeed withdrawing from Kharkov. Without a doubt. Before the counteroffensive, they made up their mind that they were going to reconfigure things. And so Alexander is right. The Ukraine victory came at a very heavy price. They were punching air. They moved in there without any resistance, with very little Russian resistance. Russia was able to withdraw all of their forces from the Kharkov Oblast, suffering minimal to insignificant loss of life. All the videos and the images of Russian equipment, supposedly that they left behind in Kharkov, I don't buy it. I've already seen like 2 or 3 videos which have been proven to be fakes of Russian tanks and Russian equipment kind of scattered in what is supposed to be the Kharkov Oblast. But I've already read many accounts saying that all of these videos of all of this equipment is actually old video or video taken from Crimea or stuff like that. So I don't even buy the fact that the Russians left a lot of their equipment in Kharkov. I'm leaning towards the fact that this was a very well-planned, very organized withdrawal. Perhaps the counteroffensive forced the Russians to speed up that withdrawal. But either way, Ukraine, when they moved into Kharkov, they were punching air. They were punching air, and they paid a heavy price because thousands of Ukrainians, once they were in Kharkov, got annihilated by Russian artillery. And even worse is the belief, and this is not certain, but it does look like in order to execute this counteroffensive in Kharkov, the Ukraine military had to actually pull resources, pull troops out of Bakhmut in order to put together this 10,000, plus or minus, say, 10,000 strong strike force in the north. They actually had to move resources from Bakhmut to Kharkov to get this punching in air victory. And what are you seeing now in Bakhmut? You're seeing the Wagner guys pushing forward in Bakhmut. So what's the trade-off? Kharkov for Bakhmut. Perhaps that's the trade-off. Either way, what you are seeing from the Russian military right now, in my opinion, and the overall geopolitical strategy is you're seeing the Russians fall back into a zone defense. So people that play basketball or follow basketball, the Russians right now, they're in a zone, it seems. They're saying, look, we're going to defend on the east of Kharkov, on the river, on the Oskol River. We've got on the north is our Russian border, so the Ukraine military isn't going to go anywhere there. We're going to defend on the east. We're going to defend on the south. As far as Kherson goes, the south of Kharkov, as far as Kherson goes, we're also going to defend there. Zaporozhye, we're falling back and we're going to defend. We've got strong positions, very strong positions. This is not 1,000 or 2,000 troops like was the case in Kharkov. They've got very strong positions in the south of Ukraine. And they're only going to be advancing. This is what it looks like for the time being. They're only going to be advancing towards Bakhmut, which is an area that has been weakened out by Ukraine in order for them to get the victory in Kharkov. So that's kind of like a big picture view of things. If you want a detailed picture, follow Alexander's videos, follow Brian at the New Atlas. If you want to really see all the villages that are trading hands back and forth on a day-to-day basis, take a look at Defense Politics Asia, take a look at Theti Mapping. They'll give you the play-by-play analysis. You know, if you're watching a basketball game, it's a play-by-play. They'll give you the play-by-play. But the narrative of Kharkov, in closing, the whole narrative of the collective West, which is why Kharkov made so much sense for them, and why they can now leverage Kharkov to try and get Russia to mobilize so that they can further the plan to destroy the Russian economy before the European Union's economy is destroyed, is actually hinging upon a policy that I talked about maybe a month ago when I was in Athens, and that is that the top priority for the collective West is to show territorial gains, while the top priority for the Russians is not to show territorial gains, but it's to show the annihilation of the Ukraine military. For the Russians, winning the war is annihilating the Ukraine military. Yes, they do want the territory. They do want the territorial gains vis-a-vis Donbass, because one of the priorities is to liberate Lugansk and Donetsk, in other words, to make them whole. But the top priority of the Russians is what? Demilitarization, denazification. And so for them, they want to take out the Ukraine military. For the collective West, they want to show that they're gobbling up 2,000, 3,000, square kilometers. Because when you look at things from the media side, from the optics side, the map really, it really hits home. I mean, it really resonates with people. They can see a map and they can see, this map going from blue to red or red to blue, and they say, okay, so that's the trajectory of the war. You can't do the same when it comes to casualties. My point here is that I've just told you that you can see the details of everything that's going on with the war by looking at the mapping channels. And that's correct, because what do the mapping channels do? They show you a map. And they show you either forces moving this way or that way, or the map becoming red or the map becoming blue, and you can see the territory. And when you look at the territory visually, you say, okay, that's who's winning and that's who's losing. You don't have channels which are dealing with the loss of life of troops or casualties, right? You don't have a channel on YouTube or on Rumble, showing like stick figures, like 1,000 stick figures which are colored blue and 1,000 stick figures which are covered red. And then every day the guy's saying, okay, 100 people were lost there and 20 people were lost there. And that's the result of this military operation. You don't have that. But my point in all of this is that the map resonates. It carries forward. People can visually understand things by looking at a map. Casualties is something more, nebulous? It's kind of more in the air. You don't really know. We don't even really know the amount of Russian forces that are dedicated to the SMO. People are saying anywhere between 50,000 to 80,000 Russian military are in the SMO. The rest is the Donbass militia. The Wagner guys, and Chechnya. And even the Chechens, they took a break for like a month and a half, and now they're coming back. And those are the forces that are employed in this special military operation. So Russia, they don't need to mobilize. They don't need to declare war. And this, I guess, is my overall point, and I'll end the video here. They don't need to do any of that. They need to play defense, get into a zone defense right now, and they need to upgrade this to an anti-terror operation so that they can bring in 50,000 troops, 60,000 troops, which they easily have. They can bring those in, and they can start to do what a military does and unleash the constraints on the military, because right now the SMO has constraints, and I think that's the strategy of the Kremlin. That is what they're looking to do. We'll see if they upgrade this to an anti-terror operation. We'll see if they actually do that, and if they do lift the constraints of the military, so the military has more latitude to do what it needs to do. But Russia has everything at its disposal to take this war where it wants to take it, to take this conflict where it wants to take it, and time is on its side without mobilization, without declaring war, without going that route. Even though I'm 100% convinced that the collective West absolutely wants Russia to declare war. They absolutely want it. This is what they're pulling for, a declaration of war and mobilization. But it looks like the Kremlin's not going to bite. They're not going to fall for it. And they're taking things step by step. And it looks like that might be the right approach, though I do believe that upgrading it, I would say if you upgrade it to an ATO, that would probably bring more results. But play the zone defense, bring in 50,000 troops, and we're going to enter October and November, and the EU economies are going to crumble. They're going to collapse and crumble. That's exactly what's going to happen. So let's do a clown world. And this is coming from Sanna Marin, the Prime Minister of Finland. And she came out with some very interesting statements. Here we have a Luna Park. These are very popular in Cyprus. They call them Luna Parks. for kids to come and play arcade games and get on some rides and stuff like that. Let's see, Santa Marin here. Where is she? I'm going to talk about Georgia. Maybe I'll do a separate video on a second front opening in Georgia. That's an interesting story where a Georgian MP actually said that Georgians should vote in a referendum and decide if they want to go to war with Russia. That's some crazy talk right there, isn't it? Santa Marin, she said that the EU, they need to hit ordinary Russians harder. Sanctions must hit ordinary Russians, she said. Finnish Prime Minister Santa Marin said on Tuesday that EU sanctions, including the full suspension of visa facilitation agreement with Russia, are not enough. She suggested that ordinary Russians should feel pressure in their everyday lives. We must be ready to take more sanctions because the more impact we have with sanctions, the more expensive it will become for Russia to continue this war, Marin told the European Parliament. And after she was done saying this to the European Parliament, she then put on her black dress and went over to the hottest nightclub and started dirty dancing with the first rock star she could find. I'm just joking. But yeah, so look, Santa Marin is just echoing. You know, she's a Klaus Schwab, WEF globalist puppet. She's just echoing what the script is telling her to say, which is, we have to punish the Russians. And she's saying it. This is nothing new than what all the EU leaders have been saying for the past 6 months, which is, we want Russians to suffer. You know, they're open about it now. They're completely open and upfront about it. Russians need to suffer. So Santa Marin is saying that. And once upon a time, like 4 or 5 months ago, she was talking about how Finland is not going to enter NATO. And then she said if Finland does enter NATO, we're not going to be a threat to Russians at all. We're not going to have military bases or nuclear weapons. And now here she is, a few months later, talking about how she wants to punish ordinary Russian citizens. So within a matter of months, you can see how bellicose and how aggressive Santa Marin has become. And you know, she's also partying it up a lot, isn't she? Anyway, that is the video, guys. theduran.locals.com. Check out Alexandra's channel. Check out the Duran's channel. Look for us on Telegram. Take care.